The Trillionare Loser by M.R. Abdullah, copyright
But right
Mohammed
from the get-go, the
Abdullah.
author doesn't pull any punches. I mean, it opens with that stark line right there. It immediately tells you this isn't going to be about money or tech. It's about mortality itself. And that brings us to this central idea he introduces, the trillionaire loser. Now, you got to understand, this isn't about finances. It's a spiritual warning. It's about, in the author's view, winning the entire world, but losing something way, way bigger. So let's dig into this idea. The core argument is that all the wealth and success you can get here on Earth, well, it becomes totally meaningless when you stack it up against what the author calls ultimate reality. You see, the whole argument really hinges on this one core idea, a very clear split between our temporary physical body and an eternal soul. The author's point is that the real you, your essence, is your soul. The body dies, but the soul just experiences it. So starting from that spiritual foundation, the author then builds out this sort of psychological model. He uses a well-known religious story to show two completely different ways people can react after they've messed up. And the whole comparison kicks off with the story of Adam's error. The author is really specific here. He says this wasn't some grand act of rebellion or arrogance. It was just a human mistake. And this right here is the absolute key to his whole argument. He's saying it's not the sin itself that seals your fate, but how you react to it. Adam's path is all about humility, taking responsibility, and that leads to forgiveness. The other path, the path of Iblis, or Satan, is all about arrogance, blaming others, and that leads to condemnation. This quote just lays out Adam's response perfectly. You can see the key ingredients right there. First, admitting fault. We have wronged ourselves. And then, this total understanding that your only hope for salvation comes from divine mercy. Okay, so this naturally leads to, well, a much heavier theological question. How does the author even try to justify an eternal consequence for things we do in our pretty short lives? Yeah, this is the big one, right? It's the question the source material tries to tackle head on. It's a classic religious puzzle, and the author actually lays out a logical framework to try and answer it. So he offers this multi-part rationale. First, he argues it's not about the action itself, but about the permanent state of your soul the moment you die. Second, the crime of rejecting God is seen as infinitely serious because it's against an infinite being. Third, death just freezes a choice that a person was already making and would have kept making. And maybe most importantly, this final judgment only comes after mercy has been offered and rejected. And this is a super important point to get. The author makes it crystal clear that this severe outcome isn't for people who are just ignorant or confused or made an honest mistake. He says it's reserved specifically for those who knowingly and arrogantly reject the truth. Now, after laying out all that theological logic, the argument takes a hard turn. The author pivots from these abstract ideas to the world we can actually see and touch, using scientific facts as what he calls signs of a divine creator. And he starts with just the mind-boggling scale of it all. Take the human body. We're talking about 37 trillion cells, all working together in this incredibly complex system. But then he zooms in even closer. Those cells, they're made of an estimated 7 octillion atoms. I mean, the number is so huge it barely even makes sense. And right after hitting you with those numbers, he asks this question. After all that, do you really think you're the one in control here? It's a direct challenge to our sense of being self-sufficient. So he structures this whole argument into what he calls 5 distinct signs. First, the internal order. Your body runs itself. Second, the external order, the planet's balanced ecosystems. Third, universal order, the consistent laws of physics. Fourth, the mystery of conscious order. How does our self-awareness even come from non-conscious matter? And finally, our moral order, that innate sense of right and wrong. To the author, this isn't random. It's all pointing to intentional design. So where does all this lead? Let's get to the direct, final conclusion of this whole letter. The author claims that the reason for all this incredible complexity isn't just to make you say, wow. He argues these signs are meant to be a roadmap, a guide to a very specific conclusion about your place in the universe. And this is the bottom line, the culmination of his entire argument. You did not create yourself. You cannot sustain yourself, and your existence is not an accident. And here it is, the letter's final, unambiguous call to action. The author, Mohammed Abdullah, concludes with this very stark choice, presenting what he sees as the only two possible outcomes based on everything he's argued.